Hey everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. And today I am joined by three amazing women, professional women, who are going to talk to us and share tips, tricks, and tools that you can put in your toolkit related to living a balanced life. Now, of course, we know balance is defined in a lot of different ways for everyone. And as we jump into spring, there's some spring cleaning that needs to happen. Spring cleaning, both figuratively and literally. How are you organizing your spaces? How are you organizing your mind? And how are you prioritizing the things that you need to do in order to help you live the life that you want to live? We're going to be joined today by Dr. Paris Love of the Productivity Institute, Dr. Tierney, our Level Up coach, and also we're joined today by Teresa Robertson of the organization that brings me so much joy, How to Be Professional in All of Your Organizational Things. You know, this is one of the times where we begin to say to ourselves, what are we doing? How do we get here? What happened? And why did my space become the space that it is? Sometimes it's just the little things. I have to admit, I'm guilty. I am guilty of just coming in and tossing a thing down and I'll get to it later. And then later becomes another day or another week or another month. I know some of you are like me and have that P word in your life, procrastination. And today the ladies are going to talk to us about how do we pull ourselves together. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Dr.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to see each and every one of you. And I'm going to start with Teresa, because Teresa has been one of those people in my life that has been helping me kind of figure out how to deal with my paper problem. You know, Paris was here. She taught me how to get my shred life together. But, When it comes to organization and not having a virtual assistant, Teresa, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why it's important to kind of figure out how to get your stuff together, to get yourself together.
Yes. Well, thank you for inviting me to the show. I'm president and CEO of My Office Professionals, a virtual assistance agency. And I heard you mention something about paper. I don't deal a lot with paper. If I have paper, I try to digitize it in some way because it's easier to manage when it's in a digital format. And so I hope I answered your question.
Well, no, you bring up a very good point because, a lot of people among us that watch our show are old school. They have file drawers, they have file cabinets. They literally keep a physical piece of paper of everything that they do. How do you digitize what you do, and why is digitization important to people?
Well, today it's so inexpensive to purchase a scanner. And so the very first thing I would do if I had a lot of papers around the house is to find a way to digitize them by scanning them and creating an online filing system. And it's important to do that because it's risky to keep paper around the house. Anything could happen. You could lose that paper. Your house could catch on fire. Someone could move, someone could steal it. You need to put it in a place where you can easily access it from any place. And I love to use online filing systems because I can access them from my phone whenever I need them. And I can share the information with others when I need to. And so it's just safer, and it makes more sense to digitize every piece of paper you have.
So when you're a solopreneur and the only one who is doing the work that you do, why would a virtual assistant be a positive thing in your life if you're trying to get balance and get peace of mind?
Well, some people call virtual assistants, it's just a name for someone who is an assistant. They can be a personal assistant. They can be a virtual assistant who basically helps people run the back end of someone's small business. But either way, their job is to make your life easier. And so hiring a virtual assistant is it's an amazing investment, especially if you're growing or if you have a very active life. Like I'm a caregiver. There are virtual assistants that support family caregivers with making doctor's appointments or taking care of all the paperwork or anything that you need done, ordering Christmas presents, making travel arrangements for vacations. A virtual assistant it doesn't matter really where you are in your life. Everyone can use a little help, and that's where virtual assistants come in.
Ooh, you just said the big thing. Everybody needs a little help. How do people ask for help oftentimes when they reach out to you? Because I realize that people don't always know what to say because they don't know what they need. How can you help people discover the best way to get to the place of saying, I need help, and then I should reach out to someone?
Well, when someone calls me, they already know they need help. They're usually at their wits' end. They are trying to grow their business and they're trying to do something amazing, but they realize they only have 24 hours in a day. So they start looking around for help, and they usually find me. In addition to providing support services, I also offer coaching services. So in my business, I meet with my clients first to find out what they're really trying to accomplish. And often they don't have clarity. And that speaks to the rest of the theme of today's broadcast, because if you don't have a clear understanding as to what you're trying to achieve, what would make your life easier, it's hard to get someone to help you. So the first conversation I have is around what is it you're really trying to accomplish? And then I can figure out how I can help you with that.
I thank you, because oftentimes we do get into that space, and it's literally the small things. Like one day everything can be going perfectly fine, and the next thing you know, your life is in a tizzy, and then you realize that you've been the one that's been carrying the load all the time. And so now you have to reach out to someone. Hey, Paris, talk to us for a little bit about getting that clarity that you need so you can figure out a direction. Many of my clients often find that they need to reach out for help when they get in a crisis because they've been the only one that's been doing it. Everything they need to know is in their head. And then all of a sudden trying to pull it out of their head is like pulling teeth. Help us get beyond, those phases in our life where we think it only has to be us that has the answer, but also knows where everything is around us.
Yes, it's about having clear goals. So what is your goal? So you talked about paperwork. A lot of times when we have a lot of paper, it can be overwhelming. Maybe you're not paying your bills on time. Maybe you missed the anniversary or graduation. So look at what's the goal. So I'm just going to give an example. The goal would be, I want to pay my bills on time. I want to be able to go to the events without having to wait till the 11th hour. So it's really sitting down and getting it, like you said, out of your head and on a piece of paper. Because a lot of times we know what we want, but being able to articulate it can be difficult. But when you start writing, you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to do this. And then to tell someone else what you need as well. And when we tell someone else, we have to give them the whole story. A lot of times we leave off some information because we know what we want, but we aren't articulating it correctly to the next person. So the other person's like, okay, so you want to declutter your paper. Okay, now what do you want to do? So we have to give that whole, the context of that and be very clear about your goals. And it's all about writing it down.
So let me ask you this, Paris, because oftentimes people are embarrassed because they do have a lot of paper, a lot of clutter around them, and they don't want to tell the whole story because of fear of being judged. How do you get out of your own way and get past that stigma of saying, I need help and I'm going to be a big girl and I'm going to ask for help?
Mm-hmm. We probably all heard a closed mouth does not get fed. And a lot of times my clients say that too. Well, I'm embarrassed. I don't want anyone to know about it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. The thing is, you need help, and asking for help, it's okay. I think a lot of times we have put in a position, especially as women, we should know it all. We should do it all. We shouldn't get help because we're weak. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength when you ask for help. So don't be afraid to ask for help because someone else out there has that skill set that you need and has the passion to do what you need as well.
Wow, that's a big word right there, the passion, because there's some things I'm not passionate about and I will do them because I have to, not because I want to, but because they have to get done. Dr. Tierney, talk to us for a few moments about procrastination and how it stands in the way of moving your life forward.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I tell my clients when we're talking about procrastination, the way to really solve procrastination is to ignore it. Here's what I mean. The more we think about why we procrastinate, the more we're probably going to procrastinate because we're really not getting to the root of why we procrastinate. All right. I've identified 4 different types of procrastinators. And these type of procrastinators, there's a reason why we're procrastinating. Is it because you're having an emotional response to something? Is it because you are overthinking something? Is it because you're overwhelmed? Is it because you're afraid of something? Usually there is an emotion or a deeper why that's attached to why you're procrastinating. So to hang off of Paris's example of paying your bills on time, you might be procrastinating and paying your bills because every time you look at your checkbook, you start to get disappointed that you don't have the amount of money that you would like to have. And so you're avoiding that feeling. And every time you feel that feeling, it's because you're paying your bills. So you will avoid paying your bills. And so you're procrastinating on paying your bills. It's not so much you're procrastinating on doing the thing. It's because you're procrastinating about that feeling that you don't want to feel. Okay. So when we start ignoring the procrastination and actually started looking under the procrastination, I help my clients actually stop procrastinating because we're dealing with the actual why of the procrastination. And we all know we can't get ahead procrastinating. We can't meet our goals or spring clean or declutter anything if we're procrastinating. The question is, why are you procrastinating?
I think that's an excellent example and excellent responses because there are times when we really don't know the direction that we need to pursue. When we come back after the break, I want to talk a little bit with Paris about her project, Declutter Across America. Trust me, she's coming to a city near you when we're back after the break.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And we're talking about those things that really keep us from being able to move forward. I am guilty of having too much paper, not having an adequate filing system, and sometimes not willing to ask for help. One, because I don't want to be bothered. Oftentimes when we let other people into our spaces, it means we have to be transparent and vulnerable. So today we're going to talk about some of those things. Come on in, Paris, and share with us, what does Declutter Across America look like, and why should someone reach out to the Paris Love Productivity Institute?
So Declutter Across America is an initiative that I started about 4 years ago, and I decided everyone should be organized and declutter free. So I said I would just travel the US and I would organize people. I travel anyway for my business. And so the initiative started off organizing other clients who were disorganized. And then we started going into the homes of military veterans, because a lot of times my military veterans, we have PTSD, there's some other traumas going on, and it's showing up as clutter. So I wanted to help them to do that. So I just go across the US and declutter.
Now, you're a veteran yourself. You're a retired military. What is your rank?
E5.
So drill sergeant?
You know, everyone calls me the drill sergeant. I was a sergeant, but not a drill sergeant.
When it comes to clutter, Paris is a drill sergeant. So let me just go with this. So last year around this time, we had Paris come in and she was talking to us about what we should do. And she literally challenged me to get to a space of, one, having an awareness of all the clutter that I had around me, and then two, creating a plan. So just a month ago, Paris came here. Like she said, she travels everywhere. So Paris came down, she spent 30 days with me, and she literally kind of whipped me into shape. And so Paris, talk to people about the freedom of walking through your papers. And I know Teresa told us we should, I'm in that stage now, Teresa. So I heard what you said. I need to get something where I can scan in my work that I have. And Paris left me with some papers. But how long, Paris, should we keep paper? What paper should we keep? And then when should we get rid of things, and why it's important to remove them from our life?
So you can do 7 or 10 years. I recommend 7. A lot of people like to keep them 10 years. So papers that you should keep, if you have a business, if it's something that you can write off, definitely want to keep that receipt. Bank statements, a lot of people keep. However, you can always go to the bank and get your statements. A lot of people keep utility statements. You can go back to your utility company and get that as well. So we don't have to physically keep the paper. And I understand that a lot of times we want to feel it, we want to touch it, but is it really necessary? So sometimes it's not necessary. And you can keep like the important papers that you need to keep. Let's say birth certificate, certifications that you have, anything that's for your business that you need to write off, definitely need to keep those. You can keep them in a file folder. I recommend a clear container so you can see it, and put the date, April 2023. So in 7 years or 10 years from now, you don't have to go back and go, what was in this box? You know that this was something that you can shred 7 or 10 years later.
So you mentioned keeping personal papers for professional reasons, but some of us are attached to our personal possessions. I want to talk to you and Dr. Tierney about that for a moment, because a lot of clutter is emotional, and we're attached to our clothing, whatever size we used to be. There's a touchy-feely emotion that has to go with it. Dr. Tierney, talk to us about emotional attachments, and how can we release ourselves from emotional things that we know Paris is going to come and say, you need to get rid of this, that, and the other?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the thing here, it kind of goes right along with what I was saying about the procrastination piece. You have to ask yourself why. I mean, you think about it like you're that kid in the back of the car that's at why? Why does the moon follow our car? Why is the moon way up there? Why do we have to drive down this street? Why? I want you to keep that type of energy to yourself. Why am I holding on to these jeans? Why am I really thinking that I'm going to get in these jeans? Why do I not understand that I can always go and buy another size 6 pair of jeans when I get to a size 6 again? Like, what is that emotional attachment? Making sure that you fully understand it, because a lot of times we're emotionally attached to things for reasons that really don't even make sense to us anymore. It no longer serves us in this season. And what it's doing, it's keeping you from being able to fully go into the next season. You're missing your next level because you're trying to hold on to them jeans from 20 years ago. Sugar, let it go. It's okay. You can always get back to a size 6 again and go and buy you some new jeans, some updated jeans, some jeans that are, not from way back when we had all these different patterns and stuff in our jeans. But really making sure that you understand this is why I'm feeling this attachment. And the next thing, and this is something Paris might shoot me down for this, so don't, this is just my practice. I have a memory box. So if it's something that is truly, when you get to your why, and it's something that really is sentimental and really personal for you, then it's okay to hold on to those things. But I have a box that I limit myself to this box. This is my memory box. I cannot keep everything. So it makes me sort through what really is important to me and why it's important to me. And does it belong in this box? If it does not belong in that box, then it needs to go into another box, either a box that's going to the Goodwill, a box that's going to charity, or the trash box, but making sure that we're really understanding exactly what that emotion is, and is it serving us in this season and helping us get to our next season. That's what's critical about those emotional attachments.
When we talk about emotional attachment, it oftentimes is attached to a person. We have our own personal possessions. And Paris mentioned something about military veterans, the PTSD that is attached to some of the things that they have. And Teresa, even with you as a caregiver, I want to invite everybody into this part of the conversation, because emotionally, we have to try to figure out when to release ourselves from those things that we're holding on to. So caregivers lose people, military families lose people. We as regular people lose people, but we have outfits, we have purses, we have pictures, we have, some memento that someone gave us. How do we not become a hoarder and release those things that we know we need to let go of? And I'll talk to Teresa about that first, because in your work with caregivers, oftentimes people are holding on to things because their memories attached to a person. How do you help people in your caregiving and helping caregivers know when to release themselves emotionally? Is there a process for that?
Well, I first want to say this conversation is so rich. I hope that everyone really watches this, because I've heard some things today that really touched me. Yes, I'm a family caregiver for about 30 years, almost half my life. And more recently, I cared for my aunt who passed away back in 2014, but I inherited all of her things. And as I took a look at them, I remember that lamp from when I was a little girl, or that candy dish that she told me not to break when I was a kid. And I had all these things that have been a part of my life all my life. And now I'm responsible for it. I really struggled with what to do with all these things. My house was filled. I actually had to reach out to my children, because I love them and I trust them and they know me, to come alongside me and help me to say goodbye to some of those things. And that's what I encourage others to do. Find someone you trust that you can confide in and share how you're really feeling, that you're surrounded by all these things that you need to get rid of, but you're having a hard time. Let them sit with you and help you one by one. It may take a while to say goodbye. I remember looking at a pillow that used to sit on her couch for decades. My whole life. And I said, thank you. You served your purpose. I remember you. I have fond memories of you, but I have to let you go so you can go to another home so someone else can enjoy you. It was a tough process, but I went through it. And I share my story so that others can benefit from it.
Absolutely. Paris, weigh in with that.
I love that. A lot of times we have the emotional attachment to things. And I always ask my clients, what's more important? Is it the thing, or is the emotion behind it? Or is the memory behind it? So for example, we might have, like Teresa said, we inherit things. And oftentimes we have our own stuff. So what happens, we try to incorporate into our things. If we can't, we get a storage unit. So then we have to pay storage for things that we really don't love and like. So think about this. If you have something, look at the item and go, can I release it to somebody else? Do I really love it that I can incorporate it into my things? If not, release it to the universe so that somebody else can enjoy it. Because you also think about, is it the memory or is it the thing that you're attached to? A lot of times it's the memory, it's not the thing.
It's the memory is not the thing. I'm going to have to figure out how to incorporate that into my life, because I am one of those sensory people. And oftentimes I'll walk by a thing and then I can get the memory. And so if it's out of sight, then it's out of mind. And I'm like, oh, I want it to be out of mind. It's really difficult thing to process. Talk to us about that, Dr. Tierney, processing, letting go.
And this is one of the things, as we're talking about the decluttering, right? And we're talking about the things and the pillows and the jeans and all of that. We have to make sure that we're also decluttering our mental real estate as well, decluttering what's happening in the inside, what has been living in your head rent free, for months, making sure that we're taking that time to declutter those emotions, declutter, all of the things, what they said, and all the things that we've just been holding on to that we may not even realize that we're holding on to anymore. Just like the things in our external space that it'll sit there, it'll collect dust, and then we walk right past it and don't even see it anymore because it's just always there. Same thing with your internal real estate. There'll be feelings, there'll be things, harboring even resentments or whatever it is that we no longer see anymore. We don't feel it as strong anymore, but it's still there, and those are the things that are really holding us back. So when we get ready to declutter our external, we're getting hung up on letting some things go because we have to declutter our internal. What are those things that you need to process through? In some cases, it may be easier to let go of your loved one's things as you're processing your grief, but a lot of times we may hold on to things because we're not really processing and walking through and allowing ourselves and giving ourselves the permission to walk through the grieving process or the healing process. So we're holding on to these things like Band-Aids, thinking and hoping that they will stop the bleeding of whatever it is that we're feeling, but that it's not going to work that way. We have to declutter our internal and really process what's happening in the internal so that we can then see the manifestation of that in our external as well.
I want to go back up to Teresa. I want to give our audience a challenge. In this theme of time to process, what is the one thing, Teresa, that you would say that you would want people to give themselves time to process what?
Give themselves time to process those hard things that, those areas in their lives where they experience loss. Loss is a part of the caregiving journey. It's a part of entrepreneurship. We lose things on relationships and clients and people we love all the time. So we have to really understand, take a moment when that happens and ask yourself some really important questions. See if you can learn anything from that experience. And like the doctor said before, allow ourselves to process that so you don't get stuck. Some people, if you're in business, may lose a client and then feel that you can't, maybe you're ready to quit. You're ready to stop your business altogether because you've lost a client. And that's not the case. You can learn from every experience. When you lose a loved one, I made a commitment that I'm going to live more after my aunt passed away. I'm going to do something new every year, something I've never done before in her honor. I usually do it around Mother's Day because I want her death not to feel so much like a loss, but that every year I honor her by doing something I've never done before because that's the kind of life she led. And so I would encourage everyone to take time to really ask themselves tough questions and to allow themselves to feel all the feelings you need to feel so you can move through that season.
Absolutely. When we come back after the break, let's finish this conversation because some of us need time to process. And that's your question mark. We'll be back after the break.
We feel the hidden impacts of climate change that land harder in Black, Brown, and Native communities.
Not many people talk about it because they clearly don't know our lives. But with President Biden's landmark infrastructure and climate plans, our issues are finally seen.
Removing lead pipes means we know our water is safe. Cutting carbon pollution helps our kids breathe easier. 1.5 million new jobs mean stable work in communities. The impact we need
right now.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, oftentimes letting go of the things that are near and dear to us, oftentimes is difficult. We are holding on to grandma's things and auntie's things and husband things and daughters and sons and all kinds of things, not giving ourselves space to grow because we're holding on to some parts of our past that could really free us to move into a future. And so we're challenging you in this block to talk about some of the things that you need time to do what in order to be able to clear out the clutter in your space. Dr. Tierney, challenge us. What are some things that you would say, or give us one or two things people need time to do what in order to move forward? Give themselves that time.
I would challenge everyone to understand your why. I want you to why yourself to death. You know, really get to the root of exactly why you're holding on to these things, or why you're wanting to not let this thing go, or why is this emotion? Why are you procrastinating? I want you to really truly get to the crux of your why and really understand your why, because once you understand your why, then you'll be able to take action effortlessly, and it won't feel like an arduous task, or it won't feel like someone is ripping grandma's pillow out of your hand, because you will fully understand exactly your why and why you need to take whatever the step is that you're taking next.
Paris, love.
So I'm going to challenge everyone. I'm going to use my name as an example. Do you love it? When you purchased it, you loved it. You had to have it. It was the best thing since sliced bread. But today, do you still love it? If the answer is no, release it to the universe, give it to someone else so they can love it just as much as you loved it. So I'm going to challenge you to go through, and whatever the item is, look at it and say, are you serving a purpose today that you served when I purchased you? If the answer is no, go ahead and release it. Give it to someone who can love on it just as much as you did. And if it's something that cannot be loved on, it's okay to go ahead and toss it.
So let's talk about this approach, because we just talked about giving you time, but there are some things that you just need to rip the Band-Aid off and get over it. It's like, oh, that sting. Oh, that hurt. Yeah, it did. And now you're done with it. Put some ice on it, keep it moving. There are those times where you have to rip the Band-Aid off. I remember the first time that Paris and I worked together. We lived in Chicago, and I'm telling this story because it's one that I share with people today, and it's I care, but I don't care. And I had to get to that space with some of my things. Paris came and she was helping me get rid of some stuff when we were moving from Chicago to the DMV area. And I came home and there were all these trash bags all over the place. And the thing she said to me when I walked in the door was, where I found these things, you have never seen them. And that hurt for a moment. But what it realized to me, I was tucking stuff away, and I was going to get to it eventually. And Paris just came in and ripped the Band-Aid off. And she was like, get over it and get over yourself. You're going to be fine. And I tell you this because there's some times when we take too long to do things, we're making our own lives inefficient. And I want all of you to share and weigh in on that. I'm going to start with Dr. Tierney, because I couldn't level up. And this is Dr. Love's zone. She is the level up coach. And we become efficient when we get rid of the things that are standing in the way of us moving forward because of everything we've already said, emotional attachments. We don't know how to detach ourselves from things. So, Dr. Tierney, talk to us about ripping the Band-Aid off so you can move forward and get efficient in your life.
It's going to hurt, sugar. It is. It is. But it's one of those things where if you don't do it, then it's going to hurt even more if you don't do it. So in trying to avoid the initial pain of ripping that Band-Aid off, you're really going to experience more pain if you continue to hold on to that thing. And two areas that I would pull up immediately in thinking about what areas do we need to rip the Band-Aids off, again, thinking from the internal perspective, your routines and your relationships. We have to rip those Band-Aids off immediately. Sometimes we'll get hung up in these different routines. And I'm just thinking, since we're talking spring cleaning, there's a lot of routines that we got into in the winter. There was a lot of routines that we got into when we were in the pandemic and all sheltering in place. There were a lot of routines, Netflix and chilling, and a lot of things that we were doing in that space, in that season, that we just need to stop it. We need to get up. We need to put some real pants on. We need to go outside, get some vitamin D, get moving. It might be that you need to refresh your skincare. routine. It might be that you need to refresh your exercise routine. It might be that you need to refresh your professional routine or just look at those routines, because whatever we do over and over and over again in our routine, that's going to make the difference of whether or not you get to ultimately where you want to go in your life. Same thing with relationships. I know we're coming out of what is considered cuffing season, where we might have got into some relationships that we normally wouldn't have got into when it's warm outside. But there's also different relationships with food, relationships with our money, relationships just across the board, where we might have gotten into some relationships during a season in our life that we need to cut it. We need to let those things go. We need to let those people go so that we can move on, not let it linger, because the more that it lingers on, the more we linger in those routines, the more we linger in those toxic relationships, they're going to hurt you in the long run. And it's going to hurt worse than if you go ahead and kiss that thing goodbye. So those are two areas where we need to absolutely rip the Band-Aid off and say, bye-bye, boo-boo, because I have to go to my next level.
Yeah, getting to the next level isn't easy because there's a lot of baggage and weight and attachment to a variety of things. Teresa, talk to us about attachment and why letting go is hard, but why it's also necessary.
Well, even with your email inbox, and most people can identify with having an inbox that's filled with 10,000, 20,000 emails. We have an emotional attachment to our emails. We want to see them all in that one inbox, and then we get frustrated when we look in there and we can't find anything. And so even with whether it's your inbox or whether it's paperwork at home, one good process to follow is to make sure that everything has a home. When it comes to your inbox, everything should either be filed because you're going to refer back to it, soon, deleted, archived, or forwarded on to someone else to take care of. And in our homes, it's the same thing. Everything should have a home. I'm looking around my office now, looking at some things that need a home. But when you're organizing your home, if something is not where it belongs, that's where you build up clutter. But if you can find a home for it, if it can fit and it's not, and then you know where to put it. And if it doesn't have a home, that's when you ask the question that Dr. Love said: do I need this thing? Does it serve a purpose? And if it does, then you need to create a home for it or get rid of it.
Wow. I'm just going to say ouch, because that hurt a little bit, because I have some things that I was left to do in an assignment from Dr. Paris Love, and it doesn't have a home. And so now I have to figure out how to depart with it. Paris, talk to us about how do you find a home for things that need a home? And how do you say, just let it go?
Yeah. We're going to talk about that little thing in a minute, Jackie. But when you're going through your things, and a lot of times we have small spaces, so we're trying to create and be very creative in how we place things. But you can go, where can I put this item that I'm going to remember? Because a lot of times out of sight, out of mind. Because if we don't have a home, then we just tuck it in the back in the dark, and then we go, I know I had this item, I don't know where I put it. So put it where you know it's going to be. And if you don't have a home for it, again, you're going to have to release it and let it go. And it might be hard because, again, we talk about that emotional attachment. So do this. For items that you go, I'm not sure I really want to let this go, put it by the door that you go out the most often. So if it's the front door or if it's the back door, put the items there. Because they're going to be, and I know you're probably thinking, Paris, this is creating clutter. It's not. Put it there, because every time you go out the door, are you thinking about that item? Sometimes we keep going past it. We don't remember we have it there. And if that happens after the second or third day, you can let it go. Now, if you walk past it and go, I think I need a home for this. And you go, I think about it when I come home. You come home, go back out the next day and you go, I think I need to find a home. Then you need to find a home for it. And again, don't put it in the back in the dark somewhere. Put it where you know that you're going to be able to find it and see it. I love clear containers so you can see what's in it. If you put it in a little box or put it in a color container, you're not going to remember what's in there. But if it's clear, if someone asks you for something, hey, I'm looking for a picture or Uncle Jojo. Do you know where it is? You're like, I do. It's downstairs in the basement on the second shelf. There's a box with pictures. So you know exactly where it is.
Okay, so I'm laughing because there's an immediacy to some things that we keep around that we should get rid of. And I tell you, I don't like paper, and oftentimes things come to us that we really don't want, and it's that junk mail. And so I know we're going to run out of time, but I want to start this conversation related to the immediacy of getting rid of things that you know you're not going to need and the importance of taking time to do them. So I'm going to start with Dr. Tierney. Dr. Tierney, immediacy. Name 2 things that are important for people to get rid of right away. You already know they have no value.
Toxic relationships.
Okay.
Toxic, and I'm just going to leave it at that because you know who falls into that category. Get rid of immediately. Oh gosh. And I was thinking, yeah, the junk mail, and that's junk email. That's the mail that comes in the mailbox. Even the spammy on your social media, the DMs, hey, promote this on, we would love for you to sell Bitcoin. Like, just go ahead and get rid of all of that junk mail in every format. Go ahead and get rid of all of that.
Those are 2 really good ones. Teresa, immediacy. What are 2 or 3 things that people immediately need to get rid of?
Making excuses for why they procrastinate and why they don't do what they know they need to do. And I'm talking to myself. I do have a solution for junk mail, though. When my mail comes in, I have a box right next to the trash can. One is for shred and one is for trash. And when the mail comes in, I open it up. I either put it in the shred box, or I put it in the trash. Once a year, maybe twice a year, I'll take that shred box somewhere so it can be shredded. But it really made my life a lot easier because I feel that it's safer to put, some things have your address or important information on it. You don't want other people to get a hold of that. And so just put it right in the shred box.
Paris Love, tell us.
Number 1, thoughts that no longer serve us. You know that thought. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I never get organized. I can't do this. Get rid of those thoughts because those are not true. Number 1. Number 2, we're going back out into the public. We're attending conferences. Do not collect all the conference materials. You don't need that. You don't need the little the little stress ball. You don't leave it there. Okay, leave it for somebody else. You don't need to take it.
I love that. We're going to go into the break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how do you do those hard things. They just told us things that we need to take time to do, that we just don't have time to take time to do. We'll be back after the break.
Curl Prep Natural Solutions. Her product is organic. It's a 2-step curl defining system. This video here, you can check it out. People have been lining up to see the product in action at hair shows. When they take a seat to try it, they simply don't believe it is their hair. Now, you can, of course, access the products at curlprep.com. Curlprep.com. It works on any hair. It has 2 steps, sweet butter and a sweet defining gel, both at curlprep.com. And parents, you can also, you'll love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. And of course, our seasoned saints, they love the product as well. It has products that are great for twists, braids, locks, weaves, even those wigs and extensions. Folks, go to curlprep.com. If you use the promo code ROLAND, you get a 30% discount using the promo code ROLAND, lowercase ROLAND. Again, go to curlprep.com. curlprep.com, promo code ROLAND, 30% discount.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, things that don't serve us well, things that don't serve us at all, things that have no intention of serving us again, all need to go away from our space. And so we want to have this conversation about how do you take the time to do the things that you need to do in order to live the life you want to live. Clutter, clutter, clutter. is a word that should be out of all of our vocabulary. But after you watch this show and you're looking around your space, you can be like, this doesn't have a home. This doesn't have a home. This doesn't have a home. And we're sharing with you what to do with it. So now is the time for us to figure out, how do we do hard things? We'll start with Dr. Tierney. Dr. Tierney, talk to us about approaching doing the hard thing of evaluating what we need to get rid of in our lives.
So in doing hard things, think about it in terms of baby steps. Often when we're trying to do the hard things, we think about it in terms of big sweeps, all at one time. And then we get overwhelmed, either overwhelmed physically because we thought we was going to clean the entire house, basement, attic, everything all at the same time, or we get physically tired, or we get overwhelmed emotionally, mentally, because we're trying to sort through all of the things. And again, I'm speaking not just from the external in terms of your external space, but also your internal space. Think about it as a process. All of this is a process. Take it one step at a time. So think baby steps. Think, what can I do today? And then address that thing today. And then tomorrow, address one more thing. And then the next day, one more thing. And then before you know it, you've actually processed all of it, but don't think about it in terms of big sweeps, because when we do that, we're setting ourselves up for failure every time.
So let me ask you a follow-up question. So when do you know you're overwhelmed when you're in that process? Because I think it's important that we help people identify their baseline. At what point do you know that you're overwhelmed, even when taking baby steps?
Absolutely. When you start to feel that not a stretch, because this is going to stretch us, but when you start to feel that strain where you're like, okay, I truly can't do this. I'm never going to do this. And you feel that it's straining you in a way that is now we're moving past just a little bit of discomfort to actual pain, to where you cannot go on. Then you're moving into overwhelm zone. When we start to see the procrastination, when we start to see that, a lot of times we're already over in the overwhelmed. When your brain starts, that hamster hits the wheel of your brain and you can't focus and you're just like all over the place, you're overwhelmed. So when you start to see those telltale signs, and then even in the physical aspect, when you're like really, really sleepy, you got all 8 hours of sleep, but you're still lethargic and just like your mojo just done got up and go and you don't know where it went, then you're probably over in the overwhelm. So listen to your body, listen to your emotions, pay attention to your actions and what you're doing or what you're not doing, because those will be the telltale signs that you're getting over into overwhelm.
Absolutely. Teresa, talk to us about that, because we sometimes don't know how to approach doing hard things, especially when we have as much on our plate as you have on your plate. Being a caregiver for so long and working with other caregivers, you still have things that you must do in your day-to-day life. Talk to us.
Right. Accountability really goes a long way in helping me to stay focused. When I struggle in an area of organization, or I start procrastinating, not doing the things I know I need to do, it always helps to talk to someone else who can help walk me through that and hold me accountable to get it done. Someone who really cares for me. I don't respond well when someone's yelling at me. You know how you have those coaches that like to yell when you're at the gym. I respond more so to someone who's empathetic. And so find someone in your life who cares about you and that you can confide in, who can also hold you accountable to make sure you do the thing that you set that you want to do, that hold you accountable to reach your goals.
Why would accountability be difficult for some people, especially if they're not accustomed to having someone in their space to help hold their hand and guide them?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. You have to be transparent. You have to be willing to be honest and open with them about how you're feeling. And that's difficult for anyone to do. You have to be honest with yourself that you really have a problem. That in itself is also difficult. But if you find someone you trust, it's easier. And the only alternative is to leave things the way they are. And usually by the time someone's at this point, they've already made up their mind. They're not happy with the way things are and they want things to be better. So take the chance, talk to someone you care about and ask them to help you through it.
Thank you for sharing that, because asking for help is important. Paris Love, talk to us about that for a moment, because sometimes asking for help, literally for some people, that's like the death knell for them. It's like they don't want people in their space. They don't want people in their mind. They don't want people in their business. And they just stay in that rut. Talk to us about the time it takes to do the hard things and that initial first step of getting help.
It's about vulnerability. And so it's about being vulnerable and saying, I need help. I don't understand. I don't get it. And I think a lot of times when we are at that vulnerability state, we automatically go back to when we were a child and we asked the teacher, hey, I need help with this. And what did the teacher say? Go figure it out for yourself. And so we bring that into our adult lives and we're like, I should know how to do this. You know, when I work with my clients, people say, I should know how to get organized. I should know how to manage my time. I should know how to pay my bills. But we weren't taught these skills. So it's about being vulnerable, and it's okay. And if that's a stretch for a lot of people, every day think about being 1% more vulnerable than the day before. Just 1%. Just 1% more vulnerable. Get a trusted friend and go, you know what? I'm not having a really good day today. Can we go for a cup of coffee? That's being vulnerable. And then the next day, you know what? I need $10. Do you have $10? Now, I'm not saying ask everybody for $10, but you get what I'm saying. Be 1% more vulnerable than the day before. And it's okay to ask for help.
You know, each of you have said a word that resonates with me: stress, stretch, and strain. Stress, stretch, and strain. And oftentimes this is maybe where we find ourselves in the process over the course of the year of getting ready for Paris to come this year. It was all of those things. It was stressful for me to kind of look around and say, these are the areas where I can really say, I can't do this anymore by myself. You know, it was a stretch, you know, for me to put in the work, to put in the time to say, I need to get rid of this dress, and this dress. I gained so much weight during, you know, the pandemic time that I knew I was not going back to that size. So I said, where can I find a good home, you know, for the things that I am doing? But then also there was that strain of saying, oh, now I really have to part with it, because I did the work, but it was straining me, you know, a little bit to really say, I can't keep going at this pace with all these other things in these other areas where I'm trying to grow. And so I want each of you, if you would, give our audience something that they can hang on to that will help them know that this time next year, when we do other spring cleaning, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, financially, all of those areas, that they will be better for having taken the time to do some of the hard things. Paris Love.
So I loved, my number is 3. I love things that are 3. So challenge yourself. Let go of 3 things every single day. And you're probably thinking, Paris, if I do that, I won't have anything. And I want you to build up to this. So it could be something simple as, everyone has gone to the fast food restaurant and they're getting a little packets of ketchup, a little spoon. Y'all don't need to keep all that. Let go of 1 packet of ketchup. Oh my God, let's celebrate. We let go of 1 thing. Okay, what else can I let go of? There's some, as Dr. Tierney said, those are some jeans that I know I'm not going to wear that anymore. Let me release that to the universe. That's number 2. And so once you start getting in that momentum and building that up, it's going to be easier. And give yourself grace. When we look at the big picture, it can be very overwhelming. Chunk it down into bite-sized pieces. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So you can do this 1 bite at a time.
Teresa.
Well, I'm keenly aware that my life is not my own, and I want to be a good example to my daughter and my granddaughter. And it reminds me of the line in Hamilton when he said, teach me how to say goodbye, or teach them how to say goodbye. I want to live a life that teaches my children how to say goodbye to those things that don't serve them. And so my why is really big, and that helps me to stay focused.
Absolutely. Dr. Tierney.
So think about it this way. If you don't let go of things this year, then you're going to add to it. And then we get to this time next year, and there'll be more things that you'll be reluctant to let go of, and then we'll add to it. And then you'll be in 2025 going, oh, where did all of this stuff come from? Again, not just in terms of external things, but internal things as well. So I want you to take courage in knowing that as you release things this year, release those emotions, release the feelings, release the genes, that as you move through the year, we're going to pick up some new things. We're going to have new experiences. We're going to have, all of this wonderful things, and maybe not so wonderful things happen within this year, but you're making sure that you're keeping your self open to these experiences, because you're not holding on to old things and weighing yourself down in the process. You'll be thankful that you let go of some things this year to make space for a new, amazing, wonderful, experiences to come, so that we can kind of keep this process going, knowing that it is a process. This is not a one and done type thing. So as you're doing it this year, get ready to do it again next year and do it again next year. And sometimes we may have to do it every other month, but knowing that it is a process, and it's a process that really we should normalize as a process and get comfortable in being uncomfortable as we're walking out this process.
So these are great conversations that you should have with your family, your friends, and everyone else around the table. When we come back after the break, let's look at some resources to do hard things, and I'll give my reflection.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. As you can tell, discovering how to do hard things is not easy, but it's a part of discovering how to be balanced and how to move yourself forward and get rid of those things. As we were going through this process throughout the year, I did find some great resources for my things. And so Project Prom, I had a lot of formal gowns that I was never going to fit, and we gave them to an organization who was looking for prom dresses and formals. Project Mom, we had lots of things around the house, where moms were saying, oh, I need these items, I need chairs, I need cabinets, I need, often types of cubbies, and then there was a new project that came across my desk, and it was Project Graduation, which is where my business clothes went. So that was like my fourth round of going through all the things that I have. So let me encourage you to look around your neighborhood, online, on social media, where people are saying we're doing great work. And some of what you have in your closet, in your attic, in your basement, in your garage, look around and give those things to people. You can become a resource. So it's good to be a blessing and bless other people. I hope that something we have said today will give you an opportunity to discover how to get rid of people in your life that are dragging you down, that don't cause you to be effective, clothes and objects in your life that have memories in your head and in your heart, and you physically no longer need to hold on to those things. But oftentimes, a lot of it is just paper. It's the things that are just taking up space. And every time you walk by, you feel some type of angst or anxiety because number one, you don't want to get to it. And number two, you don't know what to do with it. So today we've given you some tools that you can use in order to help you move your life forward and spring into action. Thank you all for watching. Bye now.